On January 23, 1959, a group of 10 people set off for a ski trip in the Ural Mountains, in the territory of the Soviet Union. This group of people consists of 8 men and 2 women who are students of Ural Polytechnic University. This trip is aimed at increasing the ranking of the whole group to the 3rd in the climbing rating scale. The group chose the 10-kilometer stretch, which was considered the most difficult in the mountain climbing journey, at the time of this trip. But it was not a concern for the ski group, because all members were experienced in long ski tours and mountain expeditions. Everything that happened after that has been a mystery for more than 60 years with no resolution. Fateful journey. To reach the departure point, they had to use a variety of vehicles including trucks and horse-drawn carriages. On January 27, they began their trek to Mount Otorten from Vizay. The next day Yuri Yudin, a member of the group, had to stop the trip and return, due to her poor health due to rheumatism and congenital heart disease. At that time, Yuri didn't know that stopping this trip was the decision that saved his life. Because of the mysterious things that happened after that with the mountain climbing crew. Just now are also photos that recorded the last time Yuri saw 9 of her friends. After parting ways with Yuri, the group continued their trip as planned. They carefully recorded this journey in their diaries, with images taken with the carry-on camera. Because of the unusual and extreme weather conditions in late January when winter has not ended, the climbers had lost their way to the west, then made their way up close to the top of Mount Kholat Syakhl. Also means, Dead Mountain. After realizing the mistake, team leader Igor Dyatlov decided to stop at this position to set up the camp because the members were all exhausted. These pictures were captured by the camera, showing dense ice and snow at their final stopover. The last lines in the group's travel diary have been noted. Tired and exhausted, we began to prepare dinner. Firewood not much left. It's hard to imagine this comfort, on the slopes of the mountains accompanied by the howling wind, when you were hundreds of kilometers away from the nearest human civilization. When the group's expected return date has passed and no information has been sent. The families of the group members became anxious and demanded for rescue. On February 20, 1959, the first search was initiated, by a group of volunteers at Ural Polytechnic University. The search found no results until a week later, on February 26, 1959. Mysterious accident. Soviet investigators found the missing group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on Kholat Syakhl. And the campsite left them completely baffled. None of the group remained in the tent. According to Mikhail Sharavin, the student who found the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty, and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Investigators come to the conclusion that the tent had been cut open from inside. They further found 8 or 9 sets of footprints, left by people who were wearing only socks, a single shoe, or were even barefoot, could be followed, leading down toward the edge of a nearby woods, on the opposite side of the pass, 1.5 kilometers to the northeast. However, after 500 meters, the trail of the footprint was covered with snow. At the nearby forest's edge, under a large cedar, investigators discovered another mysterious scene. They witnessed the remains of a small fire still burning, along with the first 2 bodies, those of Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. The branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that one of the skiers had climbed up to look for something, perhaps the camp. Within few minutes, between the cedar and the camp, the investigators found 3 more corpses, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova and Slobodin, who seemed to have died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent. They were found separately at the distances of 300, 480 and 630 meters from the tree respectively. Searching for the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months. They were finally found on May 4 under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters farther into the woods from that cedar tree where others were previously found. These 4 were better dressed than the others, and there were signs, indicating that those who had died first had apparently relinquished their clothes to the others. Zolotaryov was wearing Dubinina's faux fur coat and hat, while Dubinina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krivonishenko's wool pants. 3 and 4 of these people died of very serious injuries on the body. One person had a cracked skull and the other 2 suffered severe chest injuries resulting in internal bleeding. These injuries are considered to be as serious as those of the traffic accidents. Notably, the bodies had no external wounds related to the bone fractures, as if they had been subjected to a high level of pressure. However, on the body of one of these 3 people lacked a tongue for unknown reasons. But that is not yet the strangest thing that has happened to what is found. Because after the examination, experts also found a large amount of radiation stuck on the clothes of these victims. So what caused 9 people in this mountain climbing crew suddenly decided to leave their safe camp in the deadly cold on the top of the mountain and then died? And where did the injuries on their bodies, and the abnormally high amounts of radiation on the victims' clothing come from? The mystery is explained step by step. Many theories have been put forward to explain this mystery. 1. Including alien involvement. Many other climbing groups have seen the orange light ball appear in the area. 2. The attack of the snowman. Indigenous people believe that in the mountains there is a species of half-human and half-beast inhabiting. They are very violent and will attack anyone who dares to invade their territory. 3. Weapons trials. The Soviet government tested secret weapons in the mountains. The explosion frightened climbers and left their tents for the night. And the hypothesis that is considered to be closest to the truth has been deduced as follows. To give a more complete picture of this tragic accident. The first are the radiation traces left on the victim's clothing. Although quite a few pieces of clothing have been confirmed to be exposed to radiation. Only 3 of these clothing fragments had abnormally high levels of radiation. The first 2 pieces belong to the first corpse, including a pair of pants with 5,000 CPM. Same belt with 5,600 CPM. The other piece is the 4th corpse's body coat, measuring up to 9,900 CPM. After identifying the victims, the investigation team believed that the belt and pants belonged to Alexander Kolevatov. And the jacket was that of Yuri Krivonishenko. Comments on these traces of radiation are recorded in the report as follows. Exposure clothing fragments can be caused by radioactive dust particles falling from the atmosphere, or from exposure to other previously radioactive materials. According to the reports, the simple explanation of the cause of this incident is most likely due to the work of Kolevatov and Krivonishenko. Because Kolevatov himself was an excellent student in particle physics. Previously worked at a nuclear technology research facility. Meanwhile, Krivonishenko has been involved in a nuclear leak cleaning project not long in the past. This can completely explain the amount of radiation appearing on the clothes of the 2 victims. It is entirely possible that these radioactive substances have spread to the clothes of the rest of the climbing crew. Parts of the victim's body were missing after being discovered. Dubinina's corpse is determined to have lost a tongue and part of its face. A special feature is that there is a residual blood in the victim's stomach. Because of these details, many theories about a barbaric attack are proposed. But actually there is also a completely simple explanation, that is, Dubinina's body was affected by environmental factors. When found, the victim's body was lying face down in a glacier. And because the flow of water and the temperature is very low, it is possible that the water flow affects the victim's body and damages the head parts. The amount of blood in Dubinina's body can also be explained by the severe injuries found on the victim, which caused internal bleeding. So what happened in the end? The regularity of the footprints in the snow showed that the group had left the camp in a calm and organized manner, not panicking for some reason. What kept this group of people out of safety in the tent? And step out into the deadly cold on top of the mountain? Everything can be explained as follows. On January 31, 1959, the ski team decided to set up camp in an area on the mountain. They had no other choice because the group could not go anymore. Because night had started to fall and the members were all exhausted. During the night, a loud noise appeared, possibly from an avalanche nearby. It led at least 5 members of the group to believe that an avalanche was coming down on them. They slashed the tents and stormed out wearing only 1 pajamas, then ran from this dangerous place to the edge of the forest, which was also the safest place when an avalanche happened. Lost in the dark and heavy blizzard on top of the mountain. These people quickly passed out due to a sudden drop in body temperature. They tried to start a fire and 2 of them died from unconsciousness in the cold. And the rest of them made a desperate decision. It was taking the pieces of clothing their 2 dead friends were wearing, covering them and risking it all to get back to the camp. One person can walk 300 meters, the second person can walk 480 meters and the third person can walk 630 meters, before everyone collapsed from the cold. Staying at the camp, the four did not panic and fled during the night. They put on extra clothes and left the tent to look for their 5 friends. They tried to search for hours. Until some point, when an avalanche really happened. When being caught in the dense snow, one person suffered a traumatic brain injury, one person had a broken rib and the other suffered multiple injuries. These injuries can be compared to victims in a traffic accident due to the ferocity of avalanches. And then the bodies of the 4 of them were buried under dense ice and snow. A few months later, they were found by a rescue team under a layer of snow 4 meters thick. The corpse's orange hue isn't surprising given the frigid conditions in which they sat for weeks. To say, they were partially mummified in the cold. That is the most reasonable theory about the cause of the case above. Weaknesses of theories. However, this hypothesis still has its weaknesses. In fact, there are a number of points that contradict that theory. First, the rescue team did not find any obvious evidence of an avalanche or its deposition. Then the average angle of the slope above the tent site, less than 30 degrees, was not steep enough for an avalanche. Also, if an avalanche occurred, it was triggered at least 9 hours after the cut was made in the slope. And finally, the chest and skull injuries observed on some victims were not typical of avalanche victims. They often died from asphyxiation, not such serious injuries. Furthermore, they are highly experienced climbers. They couldn't choose where an avalanche was going to set up a camp. At the time, the verdict was that the group members all died because of a compelling natural force. The inquest officially ceased in May 1959 as a result of the absence of a guilty party. The files were sent to a secret archive, and the photocopies of the case became available only in the 1990s, although some parts were missing. In the last, despite thousands of attempts and 60 years of speculation about mysterious deaths of 9 Soviet hikers in Russia's Ural Mountains in 1959, the Dyatlov Pass incident still remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in this world. Now, the tragedy of Dyatlov Pass has become the subject of many subsequent films and books, considering it one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. Dead Mountain, Mountain of the Dead, and Devil's Pass are significantly some of them. Our video ends here. What do you think is the cause of this mystery? Please leave your comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow the next videos. Goodbye and see you again.